You are sitting on your couch. The screen flashes green. The whistle blows. 22 humans chase a sphere of synthetic leather across a manicured lawn. You scream at the television. Your heart rate spikes. Your palms sweat. Why do you care so much about this simple geometry? The modern explanation is entertainment. You tell yourself it is just a game. You tell yourself it is a harmless distraction from the pressures of modern life. But the real answer is far stranger. To understand why your brain is utterly captivated by the movement of a sphere, you have to rewind the clock. You have to look past the billion-dollar stadiums and the corporate sponsors. You have to look at what your ancestors were actually doing before the white lines existed. What were they playing? Look at the object itself. It is a sphere. It has no edges. It is perfectly unpredictable when acted upon by human force. Your brain is biologically wired to track motion. The visual cortex of your brain lights up when tracking a projectile moving through the air. Anthropologist Dr. John Fox has spent years analyzing human interaction with spherical objects across ancient cultures. His research points to a fascinating evolutionary quirk. A flying ball mimics the flight of a startled bird. It mimics the erratic movement of fleeing prey. Your eyes lock onto it automatically. Your predatory instincts engage. You cannot look away. Does that explain why you feel a sudden rush of adrenaline when a striker takes a shot? Yes. Your nervous system is reacting to a hunt. Your pupils dilate, your muscles tense. But the games your ancestors played were not just simulations of a hunt. They were matters of life, death, and cosmic order. Travel back over 2,000 years. You are standing in the dusty courtyards of the Han Dynasty in ancient China. The year is 200 BCE. The game you are watching is called Cuju. It literally translates to kickball. It is not a pastime for children. It is not a casual way to spend an afternoon. It is a grueling, brutal exercise designed to forge elite warriors. The ball is made of heavy stitched leather. It is tightly stuffed with feathers and animal hair. It is heavy. It does not bounce easily. You are expected to keep it in the air using only your feet, your chest, and your back. You must drive it through a tiny hole in a silk net suspended high above the ground, on bamboo canes. You are not playing for a plastic trophy. You are playing to prove your physical dominance to the emperor. Cuju was deeply integrated into Chinese military training manuals. It taught soldiers spatial awareness. It taught absolute balance. It taught the ability to strike with precision while under immense physical distress. The discipline required was absolute. Can you imagine the pressure of missing a shot when your life as a soldier depended on it? Your ranking in the military could rise or fall based on your footwork. The rules were strict. The boundaries were clear. The etiquette was rigid. Cuju represents the deep human desire to tame chaos. You take a wild, unpredictable object. You apply strict physical constraints to your own body. You master it. That mastery signals competence to your tribe. It proves you are fit to survive. But across the world, another civilization took the game to an entirely different extreme. You are now standing in a vast, echoing stone court in Mesoamerica. The sun is beating down on the blinding white limestone. You hear the heavy, terrifying thud of a solid rubber ball. This is Lisli. The ball is made from the boiled sap of the rubber tree. It weighs up to 9 pounds. If it hits your head at full speed, it will shatter your skull. If it hits your chest, it can stop your heart. You are not allowed to use your hands. You are not allowed to use your feet. You must propel this heavy, lethal sphere using only your hips, your knees, and your forearms. You are covered in heavy leather padding. You are bleeding. It is exhausting. It is agonizing. Why would anyone subject themselves to this? Yale University researcher and art historian Mary Miller has extensively studied the art, architecture, and cultural impact of the Mesoamerican ballgame. Her findings reveal a dark and awe-inspiring truth. This was not a sport in any modern sense of the word. It was a cosmic ritual. The sunken stone court represents the treacherous underworld. The bouncing rubber ball represents the sun moving through the sky. You are not just a player. You are a crucial participant in the machinery of the universe. If the ball drops, the sun might fall. The cosmic order might collapse. The stakes were not pride, money, or fame. In many variations of the highly ritualized game, the stakes were actual human sacrifice. Sometimes the losing captain was decapitated to appease the gods of the underworld. Sometimes it was the winner, offered as the ultimate pure sacrifice to ensure a bountiful harvest. Blood was poured onto the court. Your brain evolved in environments where physical exertion was tied directly to spiritual and mortal survival. The crippling anxiety you feel when your team is losing in the final minutes, the pit in your stomach when the opposing team approaches the goal, it is a microscopic, muted echo of an ancestral terror. You are watching a ritual play out on the grass. Your primal brain still whispers that the survival of your world depends entirely on the outcome of the game. Fast forward across the Atlantic to ancient Greece and Rome. The spiritual elegance of the Mesoamerican courts vanishes. You are thrust into the choking dust. The Greeks played a chaotic game called episkiros. The Romans adapted it into a brutal spectacle called Harpastum. The ball is small. It is hard. It is roughly the size of a modern softball, stuffed tightly with animal hair and stitched with thick gut. There are no silk nets. There are no stone rings to aim for. There's only raw, unadulterated violence. The rules are shockingly simple. Two teams face each other on a rectangular field marked in the dirt. The objective is to force the ball over the opponent's rear boundary line. How you accomplish this is entirely up to you. You can tackle. You can choke. You can wrestle your opponent to the dust. You can throw them to the ground and step on their throat. Medical texts from ancient Rome casually list the devastating injuries sustained in Harpastum matches. Broken limbs, crushed ribs, permanently blinded eyes. Why did the most advanced empire in the world embrace such barbarism? It was calculated psychological conditioning. The Roman legions used Harpastum to maintain absolute combat readiness during times of peace. It taught you how to move as a cohesive unit. It taught you how to endure extreme physical pain without breaking rank. It taught you how to kill. Sports historian David Goldblatt notes that these ancient European games lacked the refined geometry of modern football for a very specific reason. They were direct, unapologetic proxies for hand-to-hand warfare. The players were not trying to score elegant points. They were trying to physically break the enemy's will. The ball was merely a convenient excuse to engage in socially sanctioned violence. It provided a focal point for the carnage. When you watch a rough tackle today, and the stadium crowd roars with primal, bloodthirsty approval, you are hearing the echoes of the Roman dust. You are witnessing the exact same human appetite for orchestrated conflict. You are watching war neatly packaged into 90 minutes. The Roman Empire eventually falls. The centuries bleed slowly into the Middle Ages. You find yourself in a filthy, freezing village in medieval England. It is Shrove Tuesday. The crisp winter air smells of wood smoke and unwashed bodies. The entire town is gathering in the central dirt square. There is no pitch. There are no referees in black and white uniforms. The ball is literally an inflated pig's bladder, tightly encased in rough leather. This is mob football. The rules are practically non-existent. You simply have to get the pig's bladder to a specific landmark in the neighboring village. The landmark might be a church door 3 miles away. The opposing team is the entire able-bodied population of that neighboring village. Hundreds, sometimes thousands of people clash in the muddy streets. You trample winter crops. You smash through wooden fences. You fight in the freezing currents of local rivers. It is absolute, uncontrollable pandemonium. People drown. People are trampled to death in the mud. It was so completely destructive that King Edward II famously banned it in London in 1314. His royal decree cited the great noise in the city caused by hustling over large balls. Dozens of kings and mayors tried to outlaw the game over the next 400 years, but the bans never worked. The people simply ignored them. The people desperately needed the game. Why would they risk prison or death just to kick a pig's bladder? Because medieval life was a life of absolute crushing subjugation. You were a peasant. You owned nothing. You worked from dawn to dusk for a wealthy feudal lord. You had absolutely no political or economic power. You were trapped in a rigid hierarchy. But on Shrove Tuesday, in the middle of that violent, breathless mob, you were suddenly free. The ball was the great magical equalizer. In the chaotic swarm of moving bodies, social status completely dissolved. You could tackle a wealthy merchant into the mud. You could shove a tax collector into the river. You could vent an entire year's worth of bitter resentment under the convenient guise of a holy day game. The ball became a psychological vessel. It absorbed the violent class aggression that would otherwise spark a bloody rebellion and tear the community apart. So how did the world finally get from inflated pig, bladders, and decapitations to the manicured, multi-billion-dollar pitches of today? The Great Transformation happened in the 19th century. The Industrial Revolution arrived. People abandoned the countryside and moved into hyper-crowded cities. The wild, sprawling medieval mob games were no longer physically possible in the narrow, soot-choked streets of London or Manchester. You could not have 3,000 people destroying a factory district. The game had to be contained. The game had to be civilized. The elite, wealthy public schools of England took the chaotic street brawls and forced them into a rigid academic structure. They drew straight white lines on flat green grass. They established strict time limits. They created the concept of a foul. They stripped away the explicit, fatal violence and replaced it with strict Victorian morality. They wrote rule books. they formed associations, but they could never strip away the primal psychology underneath. The rules simply created a safe, predictable container for the ancient human drives. When you watch a modern match today, you are looking at a brilliantly constructed illusion. The offside rule, the yellow cards, the perfectly cut grass. These are thin, fragile veneers of civilization draped over a boiling cauldron of ancient human instincts. The modern pitch is just a sanitized version of the Mesoamerican courtyard. It is a cleaner version of the Roman battlefield. It is the medieval village square with better lighting. Look closely inside your brain when you watch a match. Your mirror neurons are firing rapidly. These are the specialized cells that allowed your ancestors to learn purely by watching others. When a player strikes the ball with perfect technique, your brain simulates the exact same muscle movements. You twitch, you lean into the curve, you gasp. You are physically experiencing the physical exertion of the game without ever leaving your seat. Your brain does not know the difference between doing and seeing. You are bonding with the thousands of strangers around you who are experiencing the exact same neurological synchronization. You wear the bright colors of your tribe. You sing the rhythmic chants of your ancestors. You elevate a simple sphere of synthetic leather into an object of intense, almost religious veneration. You assign it the power to completely dictate your mood for the entire week. It dictates your identity. It dictates your sense of belonging in a lonely world. It is not just entertainment. It is a biological and sociological necessity. Humans are storytelling animals, and a football match is the ultimate unscripted narrative. It is a continuous, flowing simulation of life itself. There is careful strategy. There is blind, dumb luck. There is profound, heartbreaking injustice. There is miraculous, transcendent triumph. You watch because you desperately need to see chaos tamed by human skill. You watch because you need to feel the collective, thumping pulse of the tribe. The games have evolved, but your biology has not changed one bit. The ancient fears and desires are still locked tightly inside your DNA. You still crave the thrill of the hunt. You still need the structure of the ritual. You still long for the fleeting moment when the unpredictable, chaotic universe is suddenly, beautifully controlled by a single, perfect strike. Think about the sheer, baffling improbability of it all. Out of all the complex activities your species could have chosen to obsess over, you chose to track a sphere. You chose to project all of your deepest hopes, your darkest aggression, and your desperate spirituality onto a bouncing, rolling object. It is a strange, beautiful testament to human nature. It is an invisible bridge that connects you directly to the exhausted warriors of the Han Dynasty. It connects you to the terrified priests of Mesoamerica. It connects you to the freezing peasants of medieval England. They understood the deep, terrifying power of the ball. And deeply, subconsciously, so do you. You are sitting on your couch. The screen flashes green. The whistle blows. You aren't just watching a game. You are participating in a 10,000-year-old ritual of survival.